Dr. Garo Armen, for the past 17 years, you have successfully attracted the attention of Armenians throughout the world with fresh, original projects and events in support of the children of Armenia. I have seen you in action, as you know, as we mentioned also in April. I was in Armenia with Mr. Harry Tufayan, and we toured the many, many centers, especially the smart centers in northern Armenia. And it's a truly a humbling experience to witness your courage, your vision, and especially the warm relationship you have with your staff, and see firsthand the magnitude of the many projects that you lead. My question is, what was your expectation 17 years ago, and how much of that expectations have you realized, and how do you feel about all you're doing, and why you're doing what you're doing?
Thank you very much, Vartan. In April, it was a very memorable trip for us. It was wonderful to have you and Harry Tufayan visit with our efforts and many of the villages. 17 years ago, when we decided to explore the villages of Armenia, the most striking thing was the potential of the people, particularly the young people, the children. You know, there's this stigma associated with rural villages being backwards, and we noticed that it was just the opposite. These were hungry people waiting for some capability given to them in order for them to excel. And as you know, the literacy rate is very high in Armenia. That includes the villages as well. And so we thought that we cannot forego the potential of such large proportion of Armenians, and that something needs to be done, and it needs to be done urgently, because time wasn't our friend. Things would continue to disintegrate if we didn't intervene very quickly. So that was the catalyst, and we're delighted to have achieved this in 44 villages so far, and the intent now is to spread it to the rest of the Armenian rural countryside.
You know, we keep hearing about smart centers. When did this idea come about, and what is the objective, and what are the challenges you have with those smart centers?
It's a novel idea, and I'll give you the background in the context of our work that started in rural Armenia, as you said, many years ago. When we decided to integrate a number of the programs that are now operational in 44 villages, it was clear to us in the beginning that we had to do a grassroots effort and do it manually. So we started doing this in one village, and then it spread to the neighboring village, and so before you know it, it went on to 44 villages. But if you look at the reality of Armenian countryside, the rural communities, there are nearly 1,000 of them. So the idea of SMART came about because of our need to spread programs that we have been so successful in. And that includes education, healthcare, social programs, as well as economic programs throughout the rest of Armenia, and do it quickly. So clearly doing it the way we had been would be very time-consuming and labor-intensive. And the idea of SMART would be to establish hubs strategically located, accessible to many villages and many rural communities, so that we can integrate our programs in education, health, social, and economic development in a way that connects these rural communities to the rest of Armenia, to each other, if you will, to the capital city, as well as to the rest of the world, by means of the use of technology, and also by means of establishing English proficiency as a cornerstone. Because if you want to communicate with the global population, global centers of excellence, English would become critically important. So that was the idea. And it's an experiment just like the experiment that we started 17 years ago, as you say. That was successful, even though it was an experiment. It was first of its kind, and now this is the first of its kind. It's a novel program, and we're determined to make it successful.
You know, you have touched many lives, and you've touched many children's lives, especially in the rural Armenia. And you have also changed, they say, in your website, and we all know, one village at a time. And we keep repeating that creativity and insight of youth in Armenia has been disregarded. My question to you is, what is the role of the government? What kind of a support does the government lend you in your projects?
The government of Armenia has been helpful. Obviously, they are involved in all kinds of challenges, including international affairs, regional affairs, economic difficulties from time to time, financial industry that has integrated to the global financial industry to some extent. So the government has a lot on its hands, and our intent was to complement what they're doing. So clearly, we felt that the villages were being neglected, not just by the government, but also by the rest of the Armenian community all over the world, because, as you know, most Armenians are familiar with Armenia by means of Yerevan. And so, but there is a big part of Armenia outside of Yerevan. So our intent was to do what is not being done. And hopefully in the future, our government and others will be able to pay more attention to the very capable people of our villages. But we wanted to jumpstart the process.
You know, checking your website, I came across a most recent project, Project Bloom. And the world is so beautiful word, bloom, because we, especially the young kids, it's not just nature around us blooms, the young kids bloom physically, mentally, philosophically, psychologically. And it also seemed to be harvest time as I watched your video presenting the younger generation in these villages speaking impeccable English with so much confidence. What can you tell us about that project?
The project was initiated by my son, Sam. He is a teacher in Brooklyn, New York, and English is his passion subject. He's also an author, and he decided that in our English-speaking communities, speaking English wasn't just the only criteria, of course, but he wanted to make sure that the children, young people, can express themselves in ways that are not common. So he initiated this program. It was a 4.5-week program in the Hatsik village that integrated children from other villages as well. And the program lasted, as I said, 4.5 weeks. It was a 3-day-a-week full-time undertaking, and the results were just beautiful. We had the closing. I happened to be in Armenia during the closing, and to see these kids so expressive, so mature in the way they communicate is just delightful to see. And I think the last issue here was for them to express themselves in ways that you would never imagine. And it's not just a question of English proficiency, it's a question of getting into the habit of that expression.
You know, I was tremendously impressed by the passion of your son, Sam Armen. And we live in a world of choices, and when Armen chooses to do something as he has in this case, it brings out the energy, the passion, and obviously the success rate. So my congratulations to your son, Sam. I'd like to move into the beautiful events that you organize, not only beautiful but successful events. Once you have these events in the beautiful locales in New York that we all await the following day. What is the news? What was the successful amounts raised? Tell us about the upcoming events, because we've heard so much about the past. Maybe you can give us an idea of what to expect in the near future.
Well, the biggest challenge for us is, as you said, each successive year is an event of remarkable achievements for our children and also entertainment. As you know, our events are big entertaining events. And this year will be another one. There'll be a lot of surprises, and just like the previous years, and we're looking forward to it. It takes an enormous amount of work to put on a show like that, and each year we get a number of inquiries about who is helping us to do it. Of course, our staff and our friends are a big component of it, but it's not a question of an agency helping us. This really is one that requires self-involvement, and so that's what we do. Our staff, myself, Alice, and our board members are heavily involved in the programming. Our friends like Andrea Martin, Tony Shafrazi, and many, many others put in countless amounts of hours to make sure that each successive year is something remarkable. And this year, we hope for it to be another remarkable event.
I have no doubt it will be a remarkable one. But we speak about the enormous work that goes into these projects. You praise your staff. Tell us about how you enroll or get on board the younger generation of Armenians, because in Armenia in April, when we visited your Smart Center, the Smart Center of COAF, there was a lot of young talent there, both native Armenian and American Armenians. Tell us something about the volunteers. Maybe others will be interested in joining.
Well, we are always delighted to have our volunteers and our followers grow each and every year. I'm blessed by the fact that we have an exceptional staff, exceptional, both in Armenia and in the U.S. These are people that consider their work not work, but something that they are passionately driven by. Every day they come to work. And we've had people, young people, that have been with us a dozen or more years. It's wonderful to see this. In terms of volunteers, the numbers are growing every year. We have, for example, Birthright Armenia sending us more and more talented volunteers each and every year. We have a formal program both in Armenia and in the U.S. To quickly get them on board, and so far the results have been fantastic, because a number of volunteers bring in their own specialties, their own expertise, and we integrate them into our programs. So that is something that I encourage every young Armenian. We have volunteers from as far away as Australia that come to Armenia, volunteers from Russia, all over North America, Europe. So it's been a very rewarding program to see that young Armenians are getting involved. And given the fact that we are a unique organization, it is encouraging these young people to do more and more.
The Children of Armenia Fund has an excellent leadership. It has excellent volunteers. What is the role of the average Armenian or the community at large? What is your message to them to inspire them, to get them more involved with what you do? What is your message?
I think the most important thing, Vartan, is for people to understand the reality of Armenia and understand the reality of what can be done. I think, there are lots of wonderful Armenians from all over the world, and sometimes it's painful to face reality that is not so pleasant. And so the reality of villages of Armenia is not pleasant, but the most encouraging thing is that we can do something about it, and we're doing something about it. And it's very, very rewarding to see that something can be done quickly and meaningfully. And so what I would encourage young people from all over the world, and for that matter adults as well, to come and see with their own eyes, as you did, as Harry Tufayan did, what is the reality of the villages of Armenia, and be involved in participating in making their lives much, much more meaningful, something that we can all be proud of as a nation. We have been, of course, around for over 3,000 years as people, maybe as much as 5,000 years, and now it is critical that we intervene over the next 10 to 15 years, because sometimes I get fearful that this is our chance. If we don't do something over the next 10 to 15 years, we will have lost a major opportunity to reinvigorate our people and to reestablish their potential. So that is the aim, and that's what I think we can do no matter where we are from. COAF just provides the conduit, the channel to do it. And so welcome aboard the COAF. We welcome everyone to join us.